Alright, so with Amazon Prime Day 2025 coming up for the summer of July 8th, you might be looking for a 50 series laptop. This is the newest generation offered by Nvidia, and they are very solid laptops, but they do have their downfalls. So before you do decide to get one of these 50 series laptops, I recommend you stop and watch this video so I can explain to you the downfalls of these laptops, what they really struggle with, and what you can really do to make sure you get the best bang for your buck when looking at all the 50 series variants for these laptops. Alright, so from doing a ton of research on these 50 series laptops, we can see some very big shortcomings that people don't seem to be acknowledging fully. Although the 50 series laptops are very powerful, they provide a lot of value, there are some limitations, especially on the lower end 5060 and 5070 models that you might want to consider. So during Prime Day, you might see some sales on 5060 and 5070 variant laptops that seem to be really good deals in comparison to those such as the 5070 Ti and the 5080. While these deals may look really solid on the surface, there definitely is some shortcomings to these variants of the GPUs that just are not optimal when looking to future-proof yourself or even for current titles that are coming out as we speak. These GPUs have a lot of issues in the way that they are not optimized for future-proofing. These GPUs are meant to be working now, and that's all they're considered for. So the main way you can see this is by looking at this performance graph. So here I have the performance of the 5070 and the 5070 Ti compared. Two very popular laptop variants this 2025 as we get into the new year of these GPUs really getting their foot in the door into a lot of people's hands. And we see that the problem really arises when we look into the memory aspect of these GPUs. So in performance, you're going to get very similar performance just basically with the 5070 and 5070 Ti variants. When looking at the clock speeds, although it's incorrect on this graph I have right here, they're very similar. Look at the GPU turbo, the pixel rate, the floating point performance, they're all very similar. Of course 17 to 23 seems like a big difference, but in-game performance you're not going to notice that much of a difference. Where the performance really gets noticeable is really when you get into the memory aspect of the GPUs. These GPUs do struggle largely by memory. They are very limited by memory, and as you can see here looking at this comparison, the blue on the top being the 5070, the red on the bottom being the 5070 Ti, the memory of these GPUs varies a lot from the 5070 to the 5070 Ti variants. Of course on the 5060 we have the same issue. Bumping up to the 5070 Ti really just gets you where you need to be when you want to future proof and when you want to be looking for the future games. When you want to make sure you're getting the best value, you really are going to want to be getting closer to the 5070 Ti variant. So why is the VRAM so important? You see that the VRAM itself differs pretty greatly from 8GB for the 5070 to 12GB for the 5070 Ti. So what does this difference really imply to you as a user? This VRAM difference is really going to be noticeable when gaming. So VRAM is a video RAM, so it's dedicated memory for a graphics card. More VRAM generally allows you to run the games at higher settings, especially for things like texture resolution. So what does this mean in simple terms? Either you have enough VRAM or you don't. When you're playing games at a high level, say 4K max settings, 1440p max settings, you're going to notice that you use more VRAM. So this VRAM is the RAM dedicated to the graphics card. This memory is very easy for the graphics card to access and use first, giving you a very solid and smooth experience when gaming, or when loading things in, when doing anything that really requires graphics processing. The VRAM is really right there along with it to make sure you have the smoothest experience you can. This bump from 8GB to 12GB of VRAM from the 5070 to the 5070 Ti is very important, especially when looking for future proofing. So currently as we speak, 8GB of VRAM is kind of the bare minimum I would recommend for any laptop or for any graphics card in this category when looking at high performance gaming. The 8GB is necessary in the way that most AAA games are going to require at least 8GB of VRAM to get a solid and smooth performance in game. Now, why are we looking at this as a bad thing? This 8GB is good for right now in 2025, but as we move into the 2026 and later down the line to the future, you might start seeing 8GB become just not enough in general. So 8GB of VRAM in 5 years time could just be not what you need. What does this mean? It could just be not enough VRAM for your graphics card to run games smoothly. So let's say right now you run a game, you run the newest game, you can use 8GB maybe of VRAM and you're going to feel good, you're going to feel smooth, everything's going to feel great. In 2 years time, games might use a lot more VRAM than 8GB. This is where the problem arises. You do not want to be using a graphics card with 8GB of VRAM in 5 years. Even when considering the 5070's solid tier of performance, this 8GB is just really limiting it as a GPU in general. Whether it be a laptop version or the desktop version of this card, you're getting 8GB of VRAM that might not be enough in 2 to 5 years time. What does this mean? So when you look at desktops, you might think, well, I could just upgrade the GPU. You don't have to get a whole new desktop in order to upgrade your GPU. The case is very different for laptops though. As everyone knows, you can't just upgrade a GPU in a laptop. Let's say you buy this 5070 variant and you want it to last you 5 years. If you really do want to be using it maximally and not feel like you're getting limited by this card, especially at a high level of gaming, this 8GB is really going to be the barrier between you and future-proofing yourself. The 5070 does have solid performance, but when you just put that 8GB in there, it really just limits it as a card. There's really nothing you could do about the 8GB, and as time goes on, it's just going to get more significant. It's not like games are going to get smaller, although they should get more optimized. The trend we've seen is that, if anything, they're getting less optimized. They're using more VRAM, we're using more processing power, and looking at this 8GB, it just does not look like it's going to be enough, especially going into the future. And here's the thing with the 5070 variants, even things like the 5060 variants, they're probably going to get flooded with deals, especially going into Prime Day, Best Buy's sale, Newegg sale. You might get really tempted to just decide to get this variant. A 5070 looks solid just on the surface, but as I've explained before, it's really not going to be solid, especially going into the future. When paired with the fact that these laptops are premium machines that are going to be costing you upwards of $2,000, if not more, for a 5070 variant with 8GB of VRAM, it just becomes obvious that you need to look for something better. There has to be better options, and there definitely is. Alright, so the first option would just be, of course, to get a higher end model like a 5080. The thing with this is the price difference is just astronomical. Over $1,000 in price difference from a 5070 to a 5080, which may make you think, is the price difference worth it? Are you getting this much more GPU from a 5070 to a 5080? Well, first of all, the thing you are going to want to consider is the 5080 does have a lot more VRAM with 16GB in comparison to 8GB that you're going to get with the 5070. Another big plus about this, you are going to be getting 32GB of RAM, which is very, very important. 32GB is slowly becoming the new normal. Of course, 16GB is more than enough in most situations now, but looking at 32, it's a very solid, especially when considering that this laptop does not have RAM expansion. The amount of RAM you buy on this laptop is how much you're going to get until you stop using it. There is no way to upgrade the amount of RAM, so looking at 32GB now, it seems very solid, and it seems like it's going to last a lot longer looking into the future. But that still doesn't get us over the fact that this laptop does cost $3,400. Of course, plus taxes, that can become a lot of money very quickly. It's just a crazy price for a laptop, especially considering the fact that this isn't a very upgradable machine, and it is a thin and light laptop, which means that it does have reduced performance due to how thin it is. You can't really run the 5080 at its maximum power draw due to the slim size of this laptop and due to the fact that it is meant to be lighter compared to other options. So that's really where the 5070 Ti comes in. This laptop is kind of the perfect sweet spot between the 5070 and the 5080, kind of giving you a middle ground when it comes to price and performance. You are going to be getting 12GB of VRAM, which is essential, especially when looking at future proofing and in comparison to the 5070's 8GB. This also does come with better 1440p performance and 4K performance, which is going to be essential when looking for high-end gaming and when looking to maximize your experience with these laptops. And probably the best part about these laptops is that they are only really $200 to $300 more than their 5070 counterparts. This means that you're getting a much better deal, and it also has 32GB of RAM, which is double what a 5070 variant of this laptop normally comes with. Combined with the Prime Day sell, this becomes a very, very good deal very quickly, and you can see that this really is the sweet spot when looking at 50 series laptop. The most important part that you're really going to want to be looking for is that 5070 Ti GPU. You really want to make sure that you're reaching at least that 12GB of VRAM in 2025, and this GPU really hits that sweet spot for that 12GB. Of course, models like this Lenovo Legion Pro 7i and the Zephyrus do come with OLED panels. There is other options by Lenovo, Asus, Acer that do come with a little bit worse displays, but at a better price and at the cost of probably more thickness and maybe a little bit more heat. The main thing you're really looking for with these laptops on Prime Day is really just the 12GB of VRAM. My top two picks for 5070 Ti laptops would definitely be the Lenovo Legion Pro 7i and the Zephyrus G16 16-inch. These two are really going to offer you that premium feeling with the 5070 Ti, and you're making sure you have 32GB of VRAM, a TB SSDs, and overall just a really solid build quality with amazing displays. So to conclude, final warning, there may be really good deals on the 5070 this Prime Day, but I really would not consider them at all. Although it may look like a sweet spot, it really just does come with a lot of downsides and a lot of future-proofing mistakes that just could really get you, especially when using this laptop for 1, 2, 3 years and into the near future. Although you may not want the Zephyrus and Legion Pro picks I have, there's going to be many laptops that go on sale on Prime Day. I would really look for anything above a 5070 Ti or at a 5070 Ti if you're looking to future-proof yourself and really provide yourself the best value. At the end of the day, I think it's really important to recognize that these laptops are over $2,000 in most cases. prices, and you really want to make sure you protect yourself with solid build quality and solid performance. A solid pick today might be bare minimum into the near future. If you're going to be buying a laptop that's over the $2,000 mark, you gotta make sure you're getting the best quality you can. You have to make sure you're getting at least those 32GB of RAM, that 5070 Ti, and the best build quality possible for your money. And overall, you really just have to make sure you're watching out for any traps for 5070 or lower tier models of GPUs in these laptops. And that's pretty much all from me. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll leave my top picks for the Zephyrus and the Legion Pro in the description if you guys want to check those out. I will probably be making a Prime Day video on laptops and other tech that might be going on sale with good deals. So if you guys do want to be caught up with that, make sure to like and subscribe and wait for those videos in the coming days when Prime Day starts on July 11th. Thank you guys for watching and have a good day.